Welcome to Strange Histories. When we look back at the grand, sweeping arc of human events, we're often forced to ask ourselves a pretty profound question. What really decides the fate of the world? We're naturally drawn to the colossal figures, right? The great generals standing over maps, the massive industrialized armies marching across continents, the meticulously plotted geopolitical strategies drawn up in secret war rooms. But sometimes, the absolute fulcrum of human destiny rests on something entirely out of our hands, something completely outside of human control.
So, did tanks and soldiers win the Second World War, or was it the wind? It sounds almost absurd, kind of like a purely philosophical question, but the staggering truth is that the largest, most complex amphibious invasion in the entire history of humanity, Operation Overlord, involving millions of men, thousands of ships, and literally the entire future of the free world, hung entirely on the quiet, agonizing prediction of a tall, soft-spoken Scottish meteorologist named Group Captain James Stagg. His work brilliantly illustrates just how incredibly fragile the Allied victory in Europe truly was.
In reality, the crucial weather window. In reality, the original June 5 invasion faced a massive, rapidly deteriorating Atlantic storm that threatened to completely swamp the entire fleet. Now, notice the stark contrast in the forecasting between the two warring sides here. While Stagg and his deeply stressed team predicted a fleeting 36-hour window of high pressure across the restless English Channel, the German meteorologists were looking at the exact same atmospheric data and confidently predicted severe unbroken storms right through mid-June. They completely misread the storm's momentum, and because of this fatal miscalculation, German commanders confidently left their coastal posts, concluding that any massive Allied invasion was completely and utterly impossible. Relying blindly on that confident German forecast, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the celebrated desert fox and the very man personally tasked by Hitler with defending the impenetrable Atlantic Wall, actually left the front lines. He traveled all the way back home to Germany just to give his wife a pair of unworn Parisian shoes for her birthday. Other top German generals casually went off to the town of Rennes for war games. Meanwhile, taking Stagg's dire warning to heart, General Dwight D. Eisenhower ordered a tense, agonizing 24-hour postponement of the entire colossal invasion. But amidst the terrifying chaos of the incoming storm, Stagg spotted something almost miraculous: a brief, 36-hour gap in the system, a fragile ridge of high pressure. Thanks to Stagg spotting this brief gap, Eisenhower gave the order to go, and they launched the invasion on June 6, catching the scattered German defenses completely off guard. Now, the absolutely crucial point we have to understand is this. If Eisenhower had not launched on June 6, the very next suitable window of moon phases and tides required for a landing was June 18 to 20. By launching when they did, they narrowly avoided a catastrophic storm that hit during that exact next viable window of June 18. That's the history you know. But what if Stagg's team had missed that tiny, fleeting window of high pressure on June 6th? Let's explore one possible world that could have been. The divergence. June 18, 1944. In the alternate timeline, Eisenhower postpones the invasion. Missing the gap. On June 6, the Supreme Allied Commander has no choice but to wait for the next viable tidal window. The monumental machinery of war violently grinds to a halt and resets for a mid-June assault. The Allied armada of over 5,000 ships eventually set sail for Normandy, only to crash headfirst into an apocalyptic two-decade storm. Heavy, impenetrable storm clouds completely ground the Allied air fleets. The driving, relentless rain blinds the naval gunners, leaving the landing forces completely exposed. Hundreds of landing craft are swamped and capsized by the violently turning waves before they even touch the sand. Offshore, those massive artificial mulberry harbors are mercilessly torn apart by the raging tide and smashed into useless debris. To make matters unimaginably worse, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel is right at his post. The weather has not lulled him away on a birthday errand. He is standing on the bluffs, scanning the horizon. When the battered fleet appears, he directs the reinforced German defensive lines with terrifying, devastating precision. He turns the beaches into a massive, tragic graveyard. The chaotic invasion is completely, definitively repulsed, utterly shattering the Western Allies' army on the blood-soaked sand. With the Western invasion completely crushed, the Allies cannot attempt another amphibious assault for at least a full year. The leadership in Berlin seizes this golden opportunity. Unworried about an immediate Western threat, Germany redeploys over 1 million battle-hardened, veteran troops from the unbreached coast of France directly to the grinding Eastern Front. 1 million elite soldiers. This massive, sudden influx successfully stalls the advancing Soviet steamroller, plunging Europe headlong into a brutal, agonizing war of attrition that drags on for extra years. The present day, a new geopolitics. Because of those extra years of grinding, catastrophic war, Berlin is flattened into unrecognizable dust. The advancing Red Army eventually pushes its border all the way from Moscow to the very shores of the Atlantic Ocean.
Just picture this reality today. Iconic cities like Paris, Brussels, and Rome are dominated by imposing, gray, brutalist communist monuments. The Eiffel Tower itself stands silently under the glow of a giant illuminated red star at its peak. There is no European Union unifying the continent. Instead, there's only a hyper-militarized continent-spanning Soviet bloc. And we're locked in a tense Cold War featuring a deeply paranoid and isolated United States staring down a sprawling Eurasian superpower.
Closing. The weight of the wind. It is a chilling, profound reminder of how unbelievably delicate our reality truly is. A single, easily overlooked weather chart, hastily drawn in pencil inside a borrowed, cramped caravan in Hampshire, literally reshaped the entire modern world. Take a long moment to just absorb this. The fundamental freedom of the Western world, the geopolitical layout of our global maps, ultimately, it was all decided by a brief, fragile break in the wind. The past you know is only one of them.